Hello, folks. Welcome back to the show. Today we have a two-part series, and the reason for that is because the two guys talking, Tim Hofmann and myself, very passionate about the industry, as you know. So it went on for quite some time. So I had to cut it into two parts, but I'm excited to bring it to you. So we talk about so many things, and you know, this guy is a sixth generation operator and he's now the vice president, started on the floor. So he's got so many angles on the industry and he really thinks deeply about it. And that is something that's where I come from. I think deeply about it because it's so much more. It's a key factor in the economy. It's essential to manufacture things locally, in my opinion, for multitude of reasons, one being environmental. And I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole, but it just makes sense. Um, so to get all these things to work, we talk about some stuff, which is employee engagement, the imperative need for innovation because the demographics are changing, have changed, and we need to innovate in so many ways. And that just doesn't mean technology. It could be other things too. The agility of a small company. These big companies are hard to move. They're big ships. Um, so the innovation and agility in a small company can change their world and the industry. So, and it's also important and paramount for us to talk about the perspective, the view of the trades and manufacturing to my generation and younger, because we are the future, and it's paramount to understand how important it is. Um, so we get into that. It's exciting. And we're both very optimistic about the future. Maybe that's a biased opinion, but that's okay. I think everybody in the world needs to hear that sometimes. But I can be negative too. But being positive in this context is healthy. So, without further delay, let's have a good chat with Tim Hofmann. Thank you.
Greg Sheldon here, your host of Metal, Steel, Manufacturing, and Business Pro podcast, where you learn everything about the metals and manufacturing industry that make your modern day life possible.
Tim, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
You're welcome. And so you've been in the industry. We've talked before, and you've been in the industry most of your life, right?
Yep.
And you're at Frank B. Clayton Sons.
Yep.
Right. Yep. And that's an old company. Wow.
125 years this year.
Oh my gosh.
And now I am the sixth generation. And if my sweetheart of a child decides to be involved, she will be the seventh.
Yeah, there you go. So that's interesting you say that. So do you expose her to the business? I mean, she's pretty young, right? So
she's pretty young. She's 9 years old. She is a budding entrepreneur though. My wife, we're actually funny, this is her, we're on vacation. This is her calculator. Because she's got a bead business and she was trying to figure out the margins when she bundled a package together, because she told me you can't sell, every individual price can't be totaled up, Dad. If it's a bundle, it's got to be a little bit cheaper. So she was figuring margins, and I said, hey,
that's awesome.
Yeah, she could be in the worst things, right?
Yeah, man, that is awesome. Well, I hope that continues. That's awesome.
So do I. So I would say the company was probably never, our industry was male dominated for so long.
Yeah.
That I think there was, in 125 years, sometimes we get complacent. So
yeah,
I think it was, I'm in the process of really trying to build it into something that if she would like to be involved, she would feel comfortable in being involved, and B, just to, modernize it with the times.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think we're all going through that, just learning about, and that's part of what this show's about, is like talking about the stories of generations and the people, but also all us older guys trying to figure out what, not that we're old, but
yeah,
we're older in comparison to them, right?
Yeah.
And just trying to figure out what is it we can do to attract a new generation, right, into it. And I have my beliefs, but it's not about me. It's about you today. So I'm curious, what do you think would I guess we're getting right into it. Well, I'm curious what you think a new generation would want to see in a company. Like, what's your feelings around that?
Well, I think some of the obvious are that people are looking feel valued, right?
Yeah.
That they want to feel a part of a mission
Hmm.
or a statement or a culture and all them things like I've heard you talk about before are big to build
Yeah,
at companies. I think, but I really do think it does come down to value. Like they want to feel a part, and that's why it's important to to break down the mission to the each employee, no matter where they stand in an org chart.
yeah,
It's imperative that I think from the smallest person in an organization to the top that they actually know the goals,
for sure.
right? And that way, if they know the goals, they can they can be part of a decentralized chain of individuals that want to promote the company forward or the organization forward. And I think the only way to do that is to make sure that every individual knows the mission
Yeah.
and that it's simple, right?
It's simple.
I think
Exactly.
acronyms and ACT, DBT, or whatever anybody wants to name gets confusing to the point where some people are just like, man, what do you want me to do? Like,
Yeah, man. I keep it simple with acronyms. I use one. It's the laugh out loud one. That's it.
yeah, laugh out. Yeah, because that's a big thing to write, and it's a good thing to laugh out loud, right? If you're putting that in enough things that you know you're doing something right. My wife just started in a new, well, I guess it's not a new job, a new company, and it's like lots of acronyms in there and different terminology.
Yeah.
It's just so it's like when you're I think when you're developing things for the company, it is important to think like, hey, how can we
Yeah.
scale this down to the simplest thing that gets to the point and gets people where they need to be. So
Yeah. 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 For
and
sure.
it's I don't know, I think and it evolves, right? And it
Yeah.
doesn't stop.
Yeah.
If you're that's why when we talk, well, I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's like sustainability and the people are like, well, where does that end? And I don't think it does either, right? That's
No,
one of them things. Okay.
I agree. I think the mandates are a little nuts at this
Yeah.
point. However,
Well, that's the government for you, right? If
well, yeah,
if they can find a way to make something nuts, they will.
yeah, man, the
They
iron,
will.
right?
They will.
But I,
I don't
but
know how the taxes are done in Canada, but we like to joke in America. It's like the IRS is like, yo, it's money. It's like, how much? Well, we don't know, but if you don't pay it, you'll know. We can't tell you how much you owe. You have to figure that out, but make sure it's the right amount.
that's funny. Yeah,
It's
that's what
horrible,
I
but
was
it's
saying.
funny. Tragic.
Yeah, well, and that's yeah, and I don't know if it's a strategy on their part or if it's complacency or
It's
just
bureaucracy, right?
yeah,
Like that's I wrote in one of my essays. It's like it's true. Like big companies and the government falls under that umbrella. Just try to suck less than the next big company, right? There's not like when you look at innovation, it doesn't come from this big cumbersome moving,
yeah,
bureaucratic giant. It comes from a small company or a small organization of people that need to innovate to survive.
that's right.
And
Yeah,
that's where it all comes. So that's why you see the big companies buy up the innovative companies so they can say they innovate, but they don't innovate. Maybe they steal a founder that innovated and
yeah.
he's on for a little bit and then they kick him out. But they just try to suck less than the other one. That's what I've noticed the big companies.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It becomes an HR nightmare. Somebody said that to me about one of the giants in our industry, and they said it's just impossible to get anything done because it takes like, and I've done it myself where I went to Magna. I don't know if you're familiar with Magna, where
Hmm.
the lighting division, where I was, I wanted to pitch them something that was kind of innovative, and it's like trying to anyway, it's just a behemoth and you can't change their direction, right? They're just, this is the way that we've done it and this is the way we're going to do it. Like,
Well,
so,
even look at some of the companies now that are generating tons of revenue, right? And like Silicon Valley is a great one where you have companies like OpenAI. These are all small footprints and
well,
big revenue.
I was just listening to a podcast about that where the, yeah, the most productive groups are like, who was it? Andreessen? No,
Mark
not
Andreessen.
Mark Andreessen was talking about that, where he was saying, the best companies are like four people.
Well,
Right.
there's no I don't want to, but there's no crap to cut. As you talk about bureaucracy, when you have four people. So the military is a great example, right? So if you look at the military's chain of command, the Navy really broke it down in the American Navy that an individual can lead up to about six people. After six people, you kind of lose the ability to lead, right? So
Yeah.
the military broke it down that those six people then lead six people,
Yeah.
and those six people lead six people. So it's decentralized because you can't have
Yeah.
this big, like you're saying, it just doesn't move.
Yeah.
It doesn't move the right way. And I think that those groups, one, they can be agile, right? So
Yeah.
the smaller a company, you can the like a saying to steal from Paul Graham is like to run up steps, right? In business. So
Yeah.
if you're being he likes the phrase like if you were being followed by a big bad guy, right? Like you run up the steps or down the steps. There's a good chance that the bad guy can run down the steps just as fast as you can,
Yeah.
but there's a good chance you can run up steps faster than the big guy,
Yeah.
right? So, and it's
There you
the
go.
same thing I think in business, right? There's a barrier that you can create is to take something that's maybe harder, right, more challenging, and
Hmm.
go after that with a smaller group of people that's more agile
Hmm.
and can get over boundaries and obstacles quicker that the bigger companies they can't, a bigger group of individuals can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reason you say, you're talking,
Yeah.
kick that up to Jerry to see if that's okay. And then Jerry's got to kick that over to uh Margaret and she's got to check on that. And then we'll have a meeting, we'll circle back.
Yeah.
Somebody, I think, what was it? Speaking of tech companies, somebody just put on a, I don't know if they have it on Zoom, but maybe it's on Google Teams. You can put a calculator to how much the meeting costs now.
Oh, really?
So you can have the individuals in the meeting. So then it's in the bottom. It's like a running tally. You're like,
Holy,
all right, we've been here 45 minutes. This thing's cost 5 grand, and we're here to work on a problem that, a $300 issue. Like, how do we solve? How do we solve this?
yeah, that's interesting.
It
Wow.
is.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
But that's because big companies understand what you were just saying that you got to cut through
Yeah,
the
yeah. So
crap. And how do you do it?
Tim, you're a smart guy. How does a company that wants to become large stay
Yeah.
nimble and stay, that way that, we can get things done quickly? Is that possible?
Uh, yeah, I think AI is going to help companies do that extremely well. So we, for example, have a cloud-based proprietary inventory system that we built in-house.
Yeah.
Houses our sheets, CRM. It's all in-house. We're the only one with it. So now we're in the process of how do we use an AI bot to start quoting work, right? Because I like when people are like, "Oh, AI is going to take their jobs or this or that." That's all bullshit.
Yes, it is.
Person using AI and leveraging AI is going to take your job.
That's right. 100%.
So the
I
machine
agree.
is not going to take your job. And I think we're finding out too. I think people in our industry, especially, are scared, right, with robotic welding,
Yeah.
any kind of automated systems. They're like, we're going to lose our jobs. I think it's clear that the white collar worker should be the one concerned, the marketing team,
For sure,
the
man.
HR team,
The
the legal
lawyers,
team,
accountants.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, you can go on Chat GPT and say, hey, I want to sue my neighbor whose dog keeps like defecating on the sidewalk. And that's like, you don't need any kind of education to just,
Yeah.
there's the letter, like, you know what I mean? Let's take
Yeah.
it to somebody
It'll
and
give
fill
you
it
the
out.
steps and yeah, man. I
So,
agree 100% with that.
so I think that's the kind of thing. So I think if people who use tools, right, to utilize these tools to help leverage the smaller group of individuals. And then when you're scaling, I think too, a lot of that comes like, I think a lot of people first thing they want to do is they want to start hiring people and then they want to start filling roles. I love to see these new companies will deal with and who's this? Oh, I'm the director of purchasing, and I'm going to put you on the phone with the director of HR, who's going to put you in touch with the person that pays the bills. Meanwhile, I get the invoice or somebody pays it, and it's the same person I was talking to. There you go. It's like, cut the crap, man. It's okay. Like you're a small company. Like you can be,
Yeah.
the founder and be the head of payroll because there's nobody else to do it.
Exactly.
But but Charlie Munger, any businessman. How do you or who's a good one? Frick, gentlemen, watch your costs. Like Carnegie's right hand man. Like that is the key. Like
Yeah.
small, small overhead, small group of individuals, and big revenue. And I think people get lost in trying to build a company where they think, if you were to say somebody like, "Hey, Greg, how many people are in your company?" You say five. People immediately go, "Oh."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But it's like we were just talking about AI or whoever, like four people, and they're like $1 billion company. So it's like you
Totally
can't,
possible.
yeah, you can't look. I think you gotta one, it depends what you do. Like we service the food industry
Yeah.
and we service construction.
Yeah.
And we're basically a custom manufacturer and we do anything in between. But
Yeah.
like there's our main things, Tyson Foods, Dietz and Watson, which is like a purveyor of meats and cheeses in the Northeast region. And then a lot of construction. So it's like, what do I need to do to service those industries? What kind of team do I need to assemble? Well, I don't need a big, 50-person team. A lot of construction jobs, there's already a set of drawings.
Yeah.
All I need somebody is to accept the drawings. Let's break them down. There's programs to help you. I mean, you go on Autodesk, they have
Yeah.
15 programs to help sort through drawings,
Yeah.
construction, quotes, you name it. So I think people need to one get out of the thought process of it for it to be good, it needs to be big, right? That's where they start. And then I think some of it's human nature, right? I don't think you can stop it all, right? Because people want to,
Of
you know, they want to feel important.
course.
They want to show off to the person next to them. I don't even know if it's show off, but what does it say about, what you acquire say about you, right?
Fair enough.
Not the product itself, but what's that? And I think, so as long as we're stuck in that, maybe we don't get rid of it all, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, there always has to be the human element too, right? I'm pro-human, and it's all about people.
we got to be pro-human guys like us, man.
Well, but I
We're a
mean,
dying breed.
that's right. But like, I mean that in the way of like, I don't want to get into all that. That's a whole other conversation about carbon and stuff. But pro-human is like, being manufacturing and construction and all of this stuff that makes our world go round. And you said it, like the AI is just going to enhance all of that, and it's going to give us, all of us in the industry, like everybody from the floor up to the management, the ability to be creative, right?
Yeah.
And it's less mundane things, less like repetitive tasks. So I'm really excited about that,
And that's a great point there that people I don't think point out is that um and this isn't a knock on a marketing, and this probably does come off as ignorant, but it's like there's like you want to cut stuff out of companies that really like you could probably sit there and like I've talked with Jennifer Beck about stuff like this where you have like, you know, um you could just sit and plan out months ahead all on with using like an AI assistant or whatever. And it's just like you could be so far ahead of everybody. So then I mean, I don't know. It's just, I think it, like you said, it's the mundane tasks, like they're gone, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody gets scared of technology, and it's like we gave Henry Ford a little, like he got to keep a little bit of money, and he traded in your plow and a horse for a tractor. Like it's so did we lose some jobs on the farm?
Of
Yeah,
course, but
but
new
there
ones
were,
were created.
yeah, new ones were created, and that's
That's
what we
right.
do. We do innovate as a species, right? So
Yes.
to your point, the human element, I think there's never going to be a point like that might take a job, but I think it's going to open another job.
That's right. And it's going to take a job that you won't probably don't want to do anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Exactly. I saw somewhere they were talking about AI. They're going to use it in farming, and they're going to have, as the tractor goes over, it'll have like a little photo eye, and it'll be able to say like this plant needs some maybe ammonia or whatever, and shoots it with the fertilizer and keeps moving. Nobody wants to do that now. And now what we do instead of that is just crop dust the whole field with chemicals. So like maybe this might be beneficial. So
Exactly. Less waste, less runoff into tap water and all that, right?
and more time to hang out with your friends and family.
That's
Isn't
right.
that what
That's
the whole goal is?
well, it is. And you know what? I think it's such interesting timing because COVID happened, right? And like a lot of people had time to reflect on their life, right? Like,
Yep.
do I really want to be doing what I'm doing? That I know that's what happened to me. And so getting workers is becoming harder because people are kind of, being introspective about themselves. And this kind of came along at a time where we needed that, right? So if you're, I don't know where I'm going with that. I guess I'm just saying it's just interesting that how things work out if you're looking at it in the right way, which you are, right? You're being positive about it. So,
But I think to your point there, it did put a lot of things into perspective, right? Like, and that goes back to that value. What do workers want? Like, how do you create an environment? I think that was it. People realized, like, I don't find value in
yeah,
this or that, and I think and not only did they they leave for that, right? But they're also we're running out of workers, and I don't think people are realistic about that.
yeah,
And that comes like America had Canada. You guys are kicking ass with your immigration policy. That's the one thing you're literally over there going. Any smart people come here. If you're in America, your H-1B visa is running out. Come here, bring your family here. Where
yeah.
I think we need to realize um, everywhere. I think Europe's running out of workers.
Well,
I think
everywhere. China is,
China is. You
and
can't get
is,
a cheap product out of China anymore,
no,
and
no.
that's what people don't realize.
Frankly, I'm happy about that. And I don't know. I'm not afraid. I'm not a like anti other countries and all that
No,
stuff or anything. I'm not a
I
racist.
am pro my country though.
I'm pro. That's right. I'm pro North America. I mean, I love America too.
Yeah, yeah.
My family migrated up from America actually. So, I've got a soft spot for America, right? And I want to be down there at some point soon. But yeah, I'm pro here. Like, and what I see about the younger generations is that they're excited about local things because it makes sense. Instead of shipping things around the world, why not do it next door? I
Yeah,
mean, and on the environmental front, that makes a lot of sense, right?
a lot of way cleaner product if you're not shipping it, uh 6,000 euro miles from Europe or however many from China. My
Yeah,
wife is in logistics and it is interesting. Like since COVID, you had that what you talked about, the drop in workers, but I
yeah,
mean there's been like a complete cratering in that shipping industry from like coming over from Asia.
really,
And
hey?
it's good to see that from all accounts and the stuff I talked to her about, it's all picking up in Mexico, right? So you have high end engineering out of Canada, States, and then Mexicans are picking up like big
Good,
time on the manufacturing end,
good.
right?
Yeah,
So I think that's going to be interesting. And I think if you look at America, right? And when I say America, I'm kind of including the Americas is how I should put it, right? So
yeah,
Mexico, Canada, and the United States. And this is going to sound kind of like you said. I don't want to sound anti-country, but we don't need the the other countries. Like, whereas if you're to India, India has enough people, enough resources where they can do everything in house. They don't
mhm,
need to trade with the rest of the world, and they've kind of shown that, right? They never entered like any kind of big global agreements until recently. They've really kind of sat back and
mhm.
they they didn't get into globalization and intermediate goods trade like everybody else did, and they kind of sat back and built their own thing. And I think America is in a unique position to do the same thing where we can partner with Canada and Mexico and really get everything we need here.
Mhm.
And by doing that, I think one, if we're not like in all honesty, and not even to get crazy about politics or war or anything like that, most wars are resource wars, right?
Yeah,
And if
100%.
if if we can start trading more with Canada, Mexico, and keeping it here, we can be energy independent.
Mhm.
Between Canada, Mexico, and the United States, we don't need oil outside,
Not at all.
right? And we're trying to convert anyway. So I think it would be very beneficial. And I think too, I'm sure we'll get into it in the reshoring and manufacturing. People are like, well, I still haven't seen it yet. And the prices are still high. It's like, man, this just started. Like if you're building a factory, and it's not putting out a product, it's inflationary, right? So in the meantime, as reshoring is happening, it'll be inflationary. Probably, in my opinion, you're going to see interest rates and inflation sticky for the next 5 years to 10 years, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way around it. All the baby boomers are retiring, so the money's expensive, right?
Hmm.
They're not putting money back into the market. They're pulling liquidity out,
Yeah.
which the cost to borrow money goes up.
Yeah.
So as we're borrowing money at a high rate and then just trying to build out a manufacturing footprint that isn't there yet, right?
Mhm.
The people are there that want to buy the products and all, but the product isn't shipping yet. It's
Yeah.
just inflationary up in the forefront. And
Yeah, man.
so it's
Well,
cool though. I think it, like, if you look, we're going back to, not in a bad way, but the 20s, right? Where you're going to see
yeah.
manufacturing in local areas,
Well, yeah, I
right?
100% agree. I like, here's a big lofty goal is like I would like to see the Americas back to where they were at war, oh, after World War II, right? Like
Yep.
building every, and I don't think that's impossible. I think that's
Mm-mm.
totally possible, totally realistic. And it sounds lofty at this point in time, but I mean, the government's spending billions on infrastructure, which needs to happen. But that also puts more money into other companies that are providing those things, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're on a really good cycle. Really, I'm so excited for the future of our industry going into the, 2030 probably be where we'll really start to see into the 30s, right? What do you think?
What do you think's gonna, do you see anything that's gonna be a big I love when people talk about disruptors to the market or industry market there.
In which I mean AI obviously, but
I really think it's gonna excel the whole like interface with customers, and to be able to
100%.
create a product, right? As you'll be able to, as these things get better, I'm assuming here, I shouldn't do that, but I'm assuming you'll be able to basically, like, do your kids are young, do they have phones?
Well, they
They play on
use
the
them.
phone and all.
They don't have their own yet,
No,
but
but I'm saying they play on the phone and all, and you notice they interact with it
like not
vocally
like it's no, but like they've never been taught, but it's just like boom, 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 boom. I
and
could.
vocally, right? My kid, if she picks this up, she's like, you know, hey Siri, hey,
I know.
YouTube. So there's, so I think we're going to get to a point where I think it's going to be pretty cool to see, yeah, Siri's and everybody's going off talking with it.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see where you can sit down with a customer and verbally talk out a
Well,
product as it's being built
yeah,
and
man.
modeled
I
in
think
front of
that's
you.
brilliant. So right now there are audit. I mean, there have been for a long time where they'll take notes, but AI can now take that transcript and condense it and do what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
There's already ones out there. I couldn't tell you the name of it off the top of my head, but yeah, they're there. And then if that can be transported from there to, I'm a fan of SolidWorks myself, Dassault's
Hmm.
products, but yeah, like we're already seeing, I'm glad you brought this up. We're already seeing, I watched a PowerPoint or something of somebody talking about 3D, like voice to 3D.
Hmm.
So I would imagine that's not too far off, right? So you're going to start building things through communicating with the software,
Yeah.
which, like, how cool is that? That's awesome. So
So
I
I think
think you got a
too,
good point there. We'll build it right in front of the client and say, here it is.
well, that's our new thing. So we started doing that. We've been doing a couple construction jobs that have called for, the customer was like, can you build this? And they started asking for mock-ups. We're doing, I'm sure you're a hockey fan being a Canadian. I know
Actually,
that's
I'm
a gross
not.
generalization. You're not.
Actually, I'm not
You're
surprised.
probably a lacrosse guy then, I would say,
Not really a
right?
sport guy, actually.
No, good,
Business guy, man. That's me.
good. You gotta be into something.
Yeah.
But we're doing some work for the fire, and they wanted all these things mocked up. So they were like perforated um vent, shelving units that go in all the lockers, and they wanted them mocked up, which is no problem. But instead of mocking up, we're like, well, check this out. And it's cool. So they sent the head project manager a text message with a link to a 3D model that he picks up. He's spinning the whole thing around. He shows them we don't have to mock up anything. So that's even just a way to do that. And then I think back what we were saying, so to come full circle, I think the human element is actually going to be enhanced because we're going to put away the keyboards. We're getting to that point where there's no keyboards. It's going to be,
Yeah,
hey,
man.
Greg, check this out. And you're,
And talk about helping out with this the sales process, right? Like, because time always kills a deal in that regard. So if you could show them within half an hour or whatever, 15 minutes or instantly what they're
my thing with it is now that I have to explain to some people, they're like, well, this is supposed to be black. I'm like, well, it's just a model for you to see. We'll paint it black when it comes time. We're just showing you it's aluminum. That's why it's silver. Or if it's black, you can't see it on the mod. But it's I
Fair.
really think them tools, and then that's exciting to me is
Yeah,
to see
man.
where that goes. Because my kid doesn't pick up the phone and text. She picks up the phone and talks to text.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely where we're going to be in an environment where everything's going to be communicated verbally,
Yeah, man.
everything's going to be visual. Everything I just saw, I think it was on LinkedIn last week. A guy had Stanford, maybe kid in Stanford just invented glasses that in real time translate the conversation for deaf people to read as it scrolls through the glasses.
That's
I
amazing.
mean, real time, so that you can have a conversation
Yeah.
right there. They're saying it. There's no delay.
Huh.
There's no awkward interface. It's there. It looks like a pair of glasses, and it was just like scrolling on the inside. It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Stanford, as I said, the one guy worked. Think that guy's going back to school? I said, I don't know, man. I don't know.
But like, how cool is that? That's so awesome. And like, it's just so exciting. I'm curious, since we're talking about technology, you see Miller has these like digital welding testing things. What do you think
hmm
about that?
So I saw them. Shout out to Diamond Tool. I was at my friend is the salesman for Diamond Tool, and this has to be going back 10 years. And the owner of the company was so excited, and he was an older gentleman. I thought it was pretty cool. He was so excited that they bought these like uh automated whatever you want to call them, like a welding fake welding machine. So the test and all. And at the time, I guess technology wasn't there because I caught up with him like 6 months later, and he was like, doesn't seem to be work. Really, that's not the same thing. But I think that, um, listen, that's going to be great. But I don't know what the field is like in Canada. But what I can say in America is that the kids are in school, they're getting certified with welding certs or
Yeah.
whatever the certs are. They come out, and I'm going to be frank with you, they suck.
Yeah.
They
It's
can't put they can't put anything together. They
just
can't weed or read a blueprint. I mean, they have they can weld two coupons together, and that's it. And it's so I really hope that if it's machines like that Miller comes out with, if it I think there needs to be a real
a
um
fabrication course.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can
like
second to that.
I mean, that's school in general, right? Like common sense stuff is like I'm not going to say it's out the window because it was never there. Like even when I went to school, there was no like classes that like balance checkbooks and stuff like that. And I think
No.
I think that kind of stuff is like we have gotten to like so the kids come out of these schools, they think they should make $45 an hour. They can't weld in a real setting. Like if you were to say, all right, here's Greg's box, he shipped in all the parts, you need to put it together. Here's the print. I had guys come in for tests and they couldn't turn on the welding machine.
Oh
That
my.
was my welder used to just he'd turn off the machine
Yeah.
and turn the knobs and you go, all right, set it up, and they can't do it. So here they are graduating. So I think we really need to. I don't think them kind of machines. I mean, they're cool, but I don't think they're going to help.
Yeah.
We need. I think it starts getting people to stop thinking 4-year degrees or where these kids need to be.
Oh yeah,
There's
man.
kids that need to be pushed in the direction. First off, if you're a kid, I wish somebody would have said to me in retrospect, "Hey Tim, you're in the building stuff." Like, because I'll be honest, I went to school. Tech was for like the guys that weren't going to make it. It was like
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
not in Tech, Joey, there's
Yeah.
you're going to be a street sweeper.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get like it starts. So in high school, that these counselors and stuff need to take kids that maybe are
But yeah. it's not just like, okay, and I've talked about this on other podcasts and with other people, like we need to start looking up or in line with the trades. It's not like that's where you end up if you can't do anything else. That's not the message that needs to be sent.
Mm-mm.
Like the guys like us learn differently. It doesn't mean we're stupid. It just means we
No,
learn differently, right? And that seems to be where we go as the trades. So yeah, I agree with you. The guidance counselors need to
but
chat.
it's become religious, right? It's become a religious. Like if you don't have a 4-year degree, it's like, you know, like what's wrong with you?
Yeah,
And I think that's like how many good and how many kids that had strong, maybe they ended up becoming an engineer because life took them that way, but would have been benefited hugely from a high school curriculum that was like based on their desire to build. I mean, what kind of engines we struggle now to figure out, right? So when we talk about electric vehicles and stuff like that, and we talk about batteries, we're trying to make like solid state lithium batteries now because we need a better battery. It's like, well, how many good people who were mechanically inclined did we push to end up becoming bankers?
that
You
could have
know,
made that in.
that
Yeah,
could have solved this battery problem if we actually cared and instead said like, no, you need to go to school for 4 years
yeah,
so you can come out and have your job taken by AI because they're the kids that are going to lose their job
for sure,
by
man.
AI, not the kid who went to the welding school. He's going to struggle, right? Because he can't, you know, all he can do is weld a pipe that's already fixed to a jig.
Yeah,
But it's yeah, I just there's got to be a revamping, and I think that starts really one at home probably, right? And explaining to the kids like there's nothing wrong with not going to college.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong
It's
with
literally all at your fingertips right now. Like
yeah,
I
you
listen,
don't need it.
you can ask ChatGPT for anything at this point, right?
Yep.
And you'll get, yeah, you may not have a piece of paper, but how valuable is that piece of paper at this point in time? Everybody has one.
I don't know your experience in hiring. I always loved that like we would look at like college degrees basically, and I think my father always told me it was a good way to look at it. He's like, all that's showing to you is that they stuck it out,
Well, that's true. Yes, there
right?
is the positive
there
side.
there is some value in that, but I'd rather have the value of Greg stuck it out and learned how to do X, Y, and Z, sticking it out.
True.
Not Greg stuck it out and now Greg's just like everybody else. Like that was the joke. I was graduating high school. I swear a third of the class had to have communicate. They were all going to school for communication.
Right.
I'm like, what are you going to do with that? And it spanned like there was 10 different like fields, but it was just like because everybody, my guidance counselor, I ended up going to school for horticulture and landscape design with a turf grass emphasis because I was avoiding the family business. But it's like, a real guidance counselor would have been like, dude, what are you doing? You have like the
Yeah.
family, what you need to do, but instead they're like, go to Del Val. I'm like, I can't even. It was not a good mix.
Yeah. I hear you, man.
But it was because they were promoting. I think that's like an ideology now,
It
right?
is, man. And it's also, I've come to the point in my life where I believe there's a certain level of propaganda to make the banks, the governments, and all of the people in a top tier money. And
Hmm.
and that's part of it is they create these propaganda machines to tell the people, the general public, that you have to go to university,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they all jump
Well,
on.
they're all in cahoots,
They're all in
right?
cahoots, man. Absolutely, they
Like
are.
I don't know if you've been catching what is happening. America just got rid of affirmative action here,
Okay.
and it was a race-based college. So and it was race-based. So colleges would have to accept minorities based on you know certain quotas they would have to fill out, and the Supreme Court ended it here. And when you get into the political side of it, I think you know that's not for this podcast, but what I do want to hit on is what you just said there, that the government, right? People are like, how can they do this? These places are private businesses, and the government are telling them they can't do this, talking about colleges. And it's like a joke because every college in America is like eats up federal funding. And it's like they have huge endowments they don't touch. They take tons of federal money, And
Hmm.
people want to call them private institutions. I'm like, they're the furthest thing
That's
from
right.
a private institution. And that's, that's a lot of, and so I think that's probably why college is like gone downhill to the point that, for example, I remember when I went to school, I had a principal, a vice principal, a
Hmm.
guidance counselor, and then the teachers.
Yep.
Now you go, there's this whole wedge of people in between.
Is there?
Yeah, it's like all these new positions of like, and they're just filled with salaries. So like to your point, like it's just become this big bloated organization, which then again goes back to what we talked about, that's not where innovation and that's not where new learning comes from.
Yeah.
Like we're learning such like an antiquated style. Everybody sit down. Like we know now that we don't all learn
No.
the same way. So why are we trying to sit everybody down and get them to learn the same way? Like,
Yeah. Well, it's definitely an outdated system, and everybody knows it, right? And but it's really convenient because of the system that we're in, right?
they're not gonna. That's what we love to say here in the States. Like they're not gonna vote themselves out,
No,
you know. So that's probably the biggest issue, right? Is how do you get it to change because the people in power don't want it to change.
no, that's right.
So that's so I
100%.
think the way that happens, I think will probably be people in the industry that start to move where you'll see people, hey, my boss doesn't have a college degree and he just got hired. Like,
Yeah,
but he knows his stuff, so it doesn't,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think that'll slowly get things to move. And I think the affirmative action decision here in the States, I think, was probably abrasive for a lot of people to see, and they wanted to throw their hands up, like, hey, like these people are, you know, whatever race, and it's not just African Americans here in America. It was all. I mean, that was the big lawsuit with Harvard was discriminating against Asian people.
Yeah.
It was like you could have the highest score as an Asian kid and still not get into the.
Oh my God.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I think that's actually going to be the start of maybe dismantling this system, right? It's because from all accounts, it seems like they're gonna nix college scholarships for athletics, right? And legacy. And I think once you start there, you're gonna see like, that was like not the but that was a lot of the college's big draw was these athletic programs. What's gonna happen? Now you got the kids making money off their own identities, which is great. Like how
Yes.
many of these universities are just, especially in America, all the basketball teams, I'm sure kind of has something similar. It was just like these organizations were just like making like tons of revenue off these kids, and they kids weren't allowed to do anything. So then, which is cool though now because my LinkedIn box is filled with I guess like not agents but representatives for these kids trying to get a sponsor college uh athletes and stuff like this. I'm not there yet, but thank you.
But
But
they,
that's cool. It's cool, man, to see them. But I think so that's what you'll see. I think it'll start in the industry. We'll have to start the trend to
yeah, that's
really
good. That's
get
good.
away from college.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
not in that detrimental because hey, we need bankers and we do need people to figure
Oh yeah.
out how the money is going to be spent and all. But I think it's just been overdone to the point where
Hmm.
it's become like a dogma that people don't think you're gonna, your life's gonna fall apart if you don't get a 4-year degree. And if,
Yeah.
like I said, we kicked it off, and I even said the stereotype that I grew up with was like vote tech was for the kids that like weren't going to make it. We're the kids that only want to go to school for 4 hours a day.
That's for sure. Sometimes I didn't.
No, no.
Oh man, no, it's but you know what? Maybe we're going to be forced into having those small teams, right? Because of the population thing that's changing, right?
It
And
is. It's pretty
it,
scary.
it may work out though, right? In the long run.
I think so. I think everything tends to work out. We seem to be
Well, that's the
good
that's
at that.
human part is that's the beauty, right? We will prevail. Humans
Yeah.
will always prevail, right?
Yep.
We'll figure it out. We'll find a way, and thank God for that. So
Yeah. I'm happy about that.
cool, man. So, what are some of the things happening at the company these days? What are some challenges and some good things that are happening?
So some good things are, well. Good things, I guess.
Greg Sheldon here, your host of Metal, Steel, Manufacturing, and Business Pro podcast, where you learn everything about the metals and manufacturing industry that make your modern day life possible.